Hi, this is Tim from UK Home Gym, your home for UK-specific independent home gym tips and advice. And today I'm going to tell you why your running strength program probably sucks. And I'm sorry to be maybe come off a bit clickbaity or sound a bit rage baity or something like that. But I think that probably if you're a runner and you have a strength program, 99% chance is that it really sucks. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, one caveat I will say is this: this is not. I'm speaking to amateur runners here. I'm not talking to anybody who's elite or who's at the very top of their game. Basically, people who are in that particular camp, they don't need to take this kind of advice. I'm looking at this from a point of view of someone who is like me, a casual runner. I just run for myself. There are my own goals there, and my goal is longevity. My goal is to be able to keep doing this for many, many years to come. And, I do have speed goals. I do have, I'd like to be able to complete this distance, this marathon, that marathon, whatever. But primarily, my goal is to just keep doing this for as long as I possibly can, and that's who I'm speaking to. So if you are not that kind of person, if you are someone who's, I want to, run a 2.5 hour marathon or something like that, get inside that kind of time, and I want to do that, and then I want to hang up my boots, my running shoes at age 35. Once I've accomplished that, that's a completely different kettle of fish. And I'm not talking to that kind of thing. I'm talking to somebody who is, recreational runner, but wants to keep doing this for a long time. And why you're, in that case, why does your strength program suck? And number one reason, and this one is really infuriating for me, is it's because it was made by AI. Now, AI is good for all sorts of things. I don't dispute that. But the AI made running specific weight programs, strength programs, that I've seen are absolute garbage at this stage. Probably because they're pulling from, sources that themselves are absolute garbage. But every time I've seen people post theirs, or I've spoken to somebody who is working off an AI created strength program to sort of hit some particular goal, it's all wrong. There's everything that I look at it is wrong. It sort of emphasizes all sorts of exercises that I think have very, very limited use. And I think that you'd be much, much better off, better served by either getting a designated strength coach or a running coach to talk to you and really go in deep about your running goals, your own specific running goals, and then create a program there. Even better than that would be to actually make one yourself. Now, I know that not everybody is confident with doing that, but I think that you do at some stage need to identify your own weaknesses and start to think about what it is which areas you need to build up strength in. As I said, I'm not going to name any specific programs or products or anything like that, but every time I've seen people post their strength programs, AI designed strength programs, really, I can't think of anything worse. AI doesn't really seem to understand the idea of progressive overload. It just seems to just spam you with all sorts of random exercises that, activate certain parts of the body which people think that needs some sort of strengthening in a very vague way. All right. Number two is your strength program is too functional. You're focusing way too much on, you're going into these kind of thought patterns where you're thinking, okay, if I'm running a lot, I need to have strong glutes. I need to have a strong core. I need to have, I don't want to have tight hip flexors and stuff like that. and you've started to go down all of these rabbit holes, and you're looking at, what's the best exercise for glutes? What's the best exercise for hamstrings? What's the best exercise for calves or whatever? And you're going down all these rabbit holes, and you're getting what you're going to come out with from those is a load of isolation lifts, which just target that one specific muscle in isolation. Now, when you run, I'm not an expert on any of these things, but I know one thing. When you run, you are not just using your glutes. You are using your glutes in conjunction with your hamstrings, in conjunction with your calves, in conjunction with your quads. Everything's getting used at once. And exercises that just zoom in on one little spot at the expense of doing exercises that, train the entire leg and the entire body at the same time. You're doing the icing on the cake without having any actual cake there, basically. You need to refocus. And I'll come back to this point in a moment. And I'm coming back to it basically, really, I think, with my next point. My next point is number 3 is your strength program lacks squats and it lacks deadlifts or variations upon those 2 lifts. It's so rare that I come across a runner, and I come across a lot of runners. It's so rare that I come across a runner who really takes the squat or the deadlift seriously. And I understand why they don't, because if you squat heavy, in fact, I did this today. I had a heavy squat session on Monday, and the day that I'm making this video is a Wednesday. I really felt you do my long runs on Wednesdays, and I really felt the squat, because I went quite heavier than I've been going for a while on Monday, and I really felt it on Wednesday. So it really did sort of mess up my my long run. That's okay, because at the moment I'm focusing more on strength anyway. So the long run is just it's there. I'm not training for anything in particular at the moment in terms of running. And the same thing with the deadlift. The deadlift, it will really, you do a heavy deadlift session, and it's really going to get in the way of your running for the next couple of days, because it's a lot to recover from. But there is no exercise that you are going to do that is going to, replace the squat. No exercise that you're going to do that's going to replace the deadlift. If you're not a massive fan of, the high bar squat or the low bar squat, you could do a front squat instead. You could do maybe a heavy goblet squat. If you're not a massive fan of the deadlift, the conventional deadlift, you could do a trap bar deadlift. You could do a Romanian deadlift. You could do a stiff-legged deadlift. You could do deficit deadlifts. There are different options. Maybe you could go a different direction and do something like Olympic lifting instead, right? But the point is, you must be doing these compound lifts, because your leg, when you're running, you're using it in a compound manner. It's all being used at the same time. You're not just, I'm running uphill, so I'm just using my quads now. No, you're still using all of the muscles in your legs. You're just emphasizing the quads. And when you're running on the flat and you're really pushing, okay, sure, there's a lot of glutes, there's a lot of hamstring. If you're running with good form. But it's all being used together, and that's what the squat does. That's what the deadlift does. The squat uses the whole of your leg and the whole of your core and all of that, and it uses it all at the same time, and the deadlift does all of those things. But okay, maybe there's a slight emphasis on the quads with the squat, and a slight emphasis on the posterior chain with the deadlift. But there's nothing to replace these exercises. And if you're not doing them, you're missing out. How heavy you go, that's a question for your coach. That's a question for you in terms of your program. But you should be squatting. You should be doing some sort of deadlift variation. The next one I want to talk about here, and this one also drives me crazy, is it's most of these programs that I come across, people's programs, when I speak to them, fellow runners, just completely neglect the upper body, and they seem to just treat it as some kind of annoying afterthought. And again, I just don't see this being beneficial to you in the long run if you're doing that. If you're running for longevity, you want the entirety of your body to have that kind of strength. There's no point being really strong in your legs, but being a complete weakling with your upper body. You need to be able to have that full, the full set of strength, basically. I'm not saying that you shouldn't maybe lean slightly towards one side or the other, depending on what you prefer, right? So if you prefer, the lower body strength, then yeah, by all means, lean into that a little bit more. But you mustn't neglect the upper body. It shouldn't be at the expense of neglecting it. You should be able to do, particularly, I don't see anyone really, a lot of runners doing overhead pressing. And I think overhead pressing, people are so weak overhead in many instances. And I think that, having a stronger upper body is going to help you in running. And the other thing that I find runners really fail to do at their own expense is a lot of pulling movements. Because a pulling movement is going to help support you in terms of building up the musculature in your back. And you'll find that when you're running and you get very tired and whatever, your posture starts to cave in. And I feel like if you had more developed core, if you had a more developed back, then you could fight back against it. When you start to feel yourself sort of collapsing inwards and your posture and your running form starting to break down, I think if you're looking for the longevity package as well, upper body, there's no excuse for neglecting it. Sure, you can go heavier and you can put, you're all into the lower body stuff, but don't neglect the upper body. Put some time into overhead pressing, put some time into pulling, put some time into bench press as well if that's what you like, and why not if you want to do some aesthetic stuff, for your arms as well. No problem with that. And the last point that I want to talk about here, the last reason why your strength program probably sucks, is because I think that it's lightweight. You're going too light. And you're sort of saying to yourself, well, look, I'm not a strength bro. I'm not a muscle bro. I don't want loads of bulk. I don't want to get all of these things in my way in terms of running. I just want to be able to have that basic strength so that I don't get injured all the time. And I think that that's fine if you are an elite athlete. But if you're not an elite athlete, why are you thinking in that kind of way? I don't understand it. I don't think that you're going in the right direction at all. I think that you should look to build strength. And unless you're in your early 20s, you get to a point where your body starts to atrophy, your muscles start to atrophy. If you start getting into your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, you need to be lifting heavy. And just going lightweight all the time and saying, well, I don't want it to knock on and damage my my running training. Well, you can only push that a certain distance, right? So as you are fighting against time, basically, as time sort of takes its toll on you, if you're not fighting back in the opposite direction, trying to add strength, then eventually, time is going to win. Age is going to win on you. No, I'm not saying that age will not win on you anyway, but you can certainly slow the process down, or you can certainly delay that from happening. Now, am I saying, right, well, I'm training for a marathon, I should be lifting, squatting 150 kilograms, deadlifting 200 kilograms. I'm not saying that you should be doing the two things at the same time. But I do think that you can get around that by having strength blocks. So, when you're training, when you're in marathon training, for instance, right? That's probably the point where you would not have a strength block, or you would scale back the you would sort of go a bit lighter in that kind of stage. But what about the rest of the year? If you're not training for anything in particular, if you don't have any particular race coming up, why not add a strength block in there? Build up all that capital of strength, right? So that when you do have to go into, a running intensive time, you have less chance of getting injured. For me, this seems like something that really, people are not really focusing on. And I feel like they are often neglecting this, and they're just sort of doing their strength work in parallel to their marathon training or half marathon training or whatever. And they sort of step them both up at the same time, and I think that's dangerous. Rather than that, I would say have a strength block, and then have a training block for your race or whatever it is. Anyway, those are my five reasons why I think your strength program probably just isn't hitting the spot. I wonder what your thoughts are. Please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Please also like, share, and subscribe. That really helps. Please check out our website. That's ukhomegym.com. And I'll see you next time in UK Home Gym.